this devastation of not just property but also our humanity is halted. Pastor Ohazurike, I am thinking about the number 7,000, that is of missing persons according to the Ukrainian police. And I am saying that in Nigeria, we have people who are not just missing, people who are under captivity, so to speak. People kidnapped, people abducted by bandits in different parts of the country. Maybe we should also talk about how our country shows concern about these people, the efforts in place as regards bringing them back. The latest and the most topical now concerns those passengers who were abducted from the train that was halted, the Abuja Kaduna bound train. Some of them are still in captivity, and we heard last week that one of the women even gave birth in captivity. So how do you assess the level of dedication of the state toward bringing back those that are not merely missing, as in the case of Ukraine, but people we know are under captivity, are alive, and we are duty-bound to bring them home?
Thank you very much, Father. I want to start by saying I want to differ a little what my learned colleague said, calling what is happening in Ukraine an armed conflict, instead of calling it that raw word that it should be, whether it's diplomacy, whether it's maturity, but it's simply a war. Just call it a war. It's not an armed conflict. It's a war. Two nations are at war, and that is exactly what it is. It tells me something when I hear figures like this. 7,000 persons missing in a war situation. And then look at me here living in Nigeria, a country that is not in a war situation, and we don't even know the number of people that are missing in our northeast or in our northwest. Even in other parts of the country where there are no known massive conflicts, people get missing every day, and there are no records anywhere. So it tells me that we are still very many years behind where the world should be today, because we don't even know the number of dead people in Nigeria, the number of people that die. Country really doesn't care. And Father, the incident you mentioned, 28th March, the ill-fated Kaduna Abuja train, people have been released from captivity. One, the managing director of Bank of Agriculture was released. And we hear he was released because of age. And I ask myself, if I am a terrorist and I want to release somebody on basis of consideration, should I release a man who is old, or should I release a woman who is 8 months pregnant? If I'm in a bus and there is one seat and I'm an old man and I see an 8-month pregnant woman, I think it's right for me to give her the seat, because I should be stronger than an 8-month-old woman in that context. So if the terrorists purportedly tell Nigerians that they release the man due to old age, and they don't want to release the woman, and they have held her until she has given birth in their custody, it tells us that what they have told Nigerians is just a criminal lie. And as criminals, I actually don't expect them to tell the truth. One, they did not release the man because of old age. They have released another person, yes, just very recently. And if you look at the name of that person, you will now ask yourself, was he released because of the name he answers, or was he released for any other reasons? I have not particularly gotten the exact reason they gave for this latest release. But if you look at the name of the person that was released,
it's a high-profile name.
It's a high-profile name. You now know that there's something political going on somewhere about what is really happening in Nigeria. So, in all, Nigeria is not getting where it is supposed to be because there is political interference in virtually everything that we do in our country. Otherwise, these things are not rocket science. It's things that people can do. Statistics is things people can generate. If somebody is missing, there should be a database. But if you go to the Nigerian police, you'll be shocked to find out there is absolutely no database for things like this, even at the police headquarters. Because what you report to the DPO there is no reporting system that ensures that the DPO transfers it to the state command and the state command transfers it to the national headquarters. There's absolutely no reporting system like that. And that is why when people are missing, a commissioner of police should ordinarily sit on his system and find out if anybody like that had been booked in any of his police stations. But you see that every day when situations like that occur, families move from police station to police station to look for their family members. They move from mortuary to hospital to look for their family. But this is something ordinarily, if there is an appropriate booking system, the commissioner of police will just sit on his desk and check if a Tochukwu Hazurike has been arrested, detained anywhere, or checked into any hospital by the police. Because sometimes when there are accidents, police takes these people to hospital. But because this thing, you remember the journalist in Abuja that was taken to hospital mortuary by police? How that story mushi. And with Nigeria, as usual, we have forgotten the young man and his family is suffering it now because we don't have a reporting system that should be the way it should be.
We don't have a reporting system that should be the way it should be. We must marvel at the kind of coordination that we have seen among the Ukrainians, how information is managed. Dr. Ajike, you are a security expert. You would understand how important information is in times of peace, but even more so in times of war. Yeah. So the point Barrister Hazurike has made is very important, because if we don't manage our information systems very well, then even if we make progress in other aspects of our security architecture, we'll still have some drawbacks in other areas. We have some other headlines on the home scene in Nigeria, don't we?
Yes. Okay, back home here in Nigeria, there are some headlines that we've been able to track. One, train attack. Syrup sees Buhari over kidnapped victims, prolonged stay in terrorist. Then, the prayers of Syrup in the suit filed last week before the ECOWAS Court of Justice in Abuja, suing President Buhari over prolonged stay of kidnapped victims in the terrorist den. That is something I fits into what you just talked about, managing information and then following up with actions that will bring results or succor to either victims or affected families. Okay, another one, a declaration that the twin attack, abductions and killings of passengers by terrorists amount to a failure by the government to protect Nigerians and to prevent these grave human rights violations.
Yes, that is one of the prayers of Serap, who have sued the Buhari-led administration. They have many prayers, but that's just one of them.
And then continuing, an order directing the Buhari government to urgently find and identify all the passengers, victims and their families, and to pay adequate monetary compensation of 50 million naira to each of these passengers, victims and their families. Okay, that's number one.
It's unfortunate. There's absolutely no monetary compensation that should assuage a family member who has lost either a breadwinner or a loved one because of things like this. And when you now listen to what transpired, where the Minister of Transportation was mentioning, oh, we wanted to get something. But if you now look underneath why that projection was rejected, you see that they are joking in the Federal Executive Council. Because the reasons they said they refused to grant him approval to purchase the machinery to safeguard that rail line was because the company was not qualified. So what stops you from saying, okay, get us a qualified company, and then we do this for the safety of our people? But you now play the politics of the man brings a friendly company, but the company is not qualified, and you now say, no, you cannot get it because and you just let it be, and people are now suffering. America came here, you remember, to pick one man and killed the people who were holding the man captive and took their citizen away. But we are here seated. It's more than 1 month, and the government has not briefed anybody, anything. This is a situation that should have warranted daily briefing, situation report. There should have been a situation room for this incident, but there's no situation room. They care less. They care less, and that's how unfortunate it has been. And if you remember the way the persons in this government criticized the Chibok incident, I would have expected a situation where if there is any mass captivity like this or abduction of citizens, they would have done what they said the other people could not do. But unfortunately, we're on a merry-go-round. It's exactly the same thing.
I think, yeah, we need to really understand Nigeria. We need to really understand the national security complexion, the strategic culture of security agencies. And to understand it perfectly, you need to go back to history. There is no national security agency established in Nigeria that was established to protect the people.
Wow.
Let's look at the police. The police was not established to protect the people. The police was established to protect British colonial interests.
Okay.
Considering.
Yes.
The army
yes.
was not established to protect the people. The army was established, first was West African Frontier Force, was established as a vehicle for the protection of economic and political interests of the colonial masters. We inherited these agencies, okay? You go back to the State Security Service. It was not established to protect the people. It was established to protect the regime. So every national security agency in Nigeria was established to protect the regime, first and foremost, and not the people. And that is why at independence in 1960, none of these agencies supported Nigerians in the struggle for independence. The army never fought along with us. The police also never did, unlike the situation we have in Ghana. That Ghana became independent earlier than us because the veterans who came from war, from the Second World War, joined Nkrumah and his party. And the British government was not ready for another war because we all know what happened to them after the Second World War. If not for America, the British, their power was just prestigious. So when you understand that, then we begin to reframe our challenges. Yes, information operations is a very critical aspect of national security. But the essence of national security, which we know, is the protection of the homeland first, and protection of the homeland from external attack. But we will find in the Constitution the military is now performing police duties. I don't know where they got that training that they can perform civil duties of the police. So let's dimension this by understanding policing and policing responsibilities. It is not just the police that does policing responsibilities. Yes, it's unfair that there was a surveillance equipment or a deterrent equipment that the minister had proposed for the train service, and they shut it down. Possibly they shut it down because it didn't come from a friendly source, or they found it unnecessary. So the insecurity we are facing in Nigeria is because the national security agencies are not primed nor established to protect the people. They can come here and tell you otherwise. They can come here and tell you what they are doing, but when you look at their strategic culture, you find out that it is not people-centric. Soldiers still beat up people on the streets. Police still detain people without arbitrarily. So, because they are not people-centric. So, but I believe that what SERAP is doing, SERAP is expanding the frontiers of our legal system. SERAP is also putting the government on their toes. Ordinarily, as Mr. Ohazrike, my colleague here, said, they should have been daily briefings. It's all about information operations. It's all about information management. But the information they manage in this country is information that has to do with the regime. And that is why crude oil pipe is more important than the human being who lives in that area. So the government...
Is crude oil the only thing more important?
No, I'm coming, yes, to the Nigerian government. So we need to understand our national security priorities. First is protection of the regime. Second is protection of the energy source. Third is the enforced or mediated unity, the Procrustean, need for us to be united. And we can see that these priorities are not people-centric. They are not addressing the issues that concern the people. We live in a fair society. Even in Abuja here, people are now scared. They can't go to Kubwa, they can't go to Babalada, they can't go to some of the satellite cities around, Abaji. Everybody is scared. So when you live in such a society, then you know that there's an imminent social collapse. There's an imminent, because security is all about the objective feeling. You must have that objective feeling. People are hungry. The opportunity cost of, crime appeal is very low. So people just ease into it. So,
anyway, there's another headline that relates to efforts by the Nigerian government, the Senate to be specific as it concerns handling the question of kidnapping in the country. Chiedu, I think you have that headline, if we can get it.
Yeah, Senate amends Terrorism Act, prohibits payments of ransom to kidnappers. The passage of the Terrorism Prevention Act 2013, Amendment Bill 2022, was a major headline last week.
Yeah, so here we are talking about daily briefings about those kidnapped and what government is doing to bring them back. Here we are talking about the essence of the security culture, generally speaking, but also the institutional culture as far as security is concerned here. And then we have the Senate amending the Terrorism Act, prohibiting payment of ransom to kidnappers. Barrister Hazurike,
I will say
you are the lawyer here. How does this work?
I will say my mind on this one. I will say my mind the way I see it on this issue. For me, there is no senator there that voted for this amendment that will be kidnapped and will not, while even in detention, in the captivity of the terrorists, negotiate payment of ransom and will indeed pay ransom. There is none there that will not pay. There is none that will have a nuclear family member in the custody of terrorists that will not negotiate ransom. None of them. So for them to do this in a society where the security agencies have not shown any exemplary action, attitude, character to show that they have capacity to rescue people in detention, what do you expect the ordinary people to do? It was in this country, in Niger State, the students in Zalamia were captured, I think either in Kankara or Kagara, one of those, Kagara. And they asked the community to bring money, and the community contributed money. When they brought it, they said it was not enough, there was something wrong, that they should go and bring more. And these security agencies sat and watched communities. They sold everything. They even demanded for motorcycles, listed number of bags of rice, and every other thing they wanted. And these communities took it as a community and took to them. Our security agencies stood hands akimbo and watched this happen in this country. And today, the Senate says, if it wasn't a radio session, I would have used words that they would have been crazy about. But come on, how could they? Now, in making this law, what aspect of this law empowers the security agencies or ensures that the security agencies will do their jobs and rescue people who are in detention? How come? Nothing like that is happening. Now, understand again that terrorists have released the man they say is too old to be in their captivity. Yet that man is too young to be the managing director of the Bank of Agriculture. And yet, the terrorists see an 8-month pregnant woman as fit and healthy enough to be in their captivity. In case there is an attack on the terrorists, they will intend to move with their captives, right? They believe that that 8-month pregnant woman will run faster than the managing director of Nigeria's Bank of Agriculture. So when you look at these people just sit down in the hallowed chambers on issues like this and think from, oh God, let's calm down. So that because when situations like this occur, if you are not careful, you will lose your.
You see, we have to understand that it's all about politicization of security. It's all about politicization of security, and the government, the Senate must be seen as doing something. The executive must be seen as doing something. But we know that, as I said, that security is an objective feeling. We know that if we live in a secure environment, we will have the feeling.
Of course.
So they are painting painting roses, making a law amending the Terrorism Act, that act does not even define terrorism. That particular act has no definition of terrorism. So amending it to say that people should not pay ransom. Predatory kidnapping, it's something that has fallen out from unemployment, from hunger. They are not addressing the root causes of insecurity in Nigeria. They are not. When they are ready to address the root causes of insecurity, because for insecurity to prosper the way it has prospered in Nigeria means that the root causes have not been addressed. And the causes of insecurity in Nigeria are purely socioeconomic. We're talking about unemployment. We're talking about hunger. We're talking about poverty. We're talking about primitive economies around. Go to the northeast. The economy is so primitive. There's absence or dilapidated infrastructure in the place. And the government has refused to acknowledge that they are the cause of this insecurity. Why am I saying this? First and foremost, the government must acknowledge that they are the cause. You remember the 9/11 saga in the United States, incident in the United States. The government of the United States acknowledged that they were responsible, that it was failure of interagency collaboration, that they got the intelligence, but due to piping and poor interagency collaboration, it happened. When you acknowledge responsibility, the people will accept it, and the people, empirical sovereignty is with the people will support you. It's only in Nigeria that the Nigerian army is fighting in the northeast, and they are fighting alone. The people are not interested. The people are only interested when it has to do with other zones where the army is doing a mop-up operation or a stabilization operation. So let's forget about what the Senate is doing. We know it is a way of trying to show that the legislature is also contributing their own quota to calm down or curb insecurity in Nigeria.
Dr. Ajike, I would tell you that you are not the only person who has some reservations about this development concerning the passage of this bill. I have spoken with a couple of some of your learned colleagues, and they feel the same way. But let us move on, because some of the issues we are going to discuss, some of the issues that will be raised in the discussion segment that will shortly move into may bring us back to issues like this, and then we'll have opportunity to say more. There is one more headline left, which also was making the rounds last week, and this concerns Imo State.
Yes. Imo moves to end illegal refining after explosion. Recall that Imo State was thrown into mourning on Friday, April 22, 2022, following a fire outbreak from an illegal oil refinery at Abuja Forest, which led to the death of over 400 persons.
So we're still back to the whole question of elite security and regime security. Who owns this illegal oil refinery? Are you going to know? Maybe not. Who takes responsibility for the deaths? Over 110 persons. The mass burial was last week. Who takes responsibility for all of that? The environment has been polluted. Is somebody going to pay in some way? Is the law going to hold someone responsible for this? Maybe not. There have actually been worse occurrences, situations in the country, and you don't see someone being held responsible for that. But you all are from Imo State, so tell me, how does this play out?
After the explosion at the illegal refinery, an official of Imo State government got to the scene and declared someone wanted. That the government has declared the owner of the illegal refinery wanted. What does that tell you? what it should tell you, what that should tell you is that they know the operator of the illegal refinery. Knowing the operator and keeping quiet until it led to the deaths of hundreds of people means that the government is culpable. Within their territory, this illegal refinery has been functioning. And all they said was that people came from Bayelsa and Rivers State and they're operating their refinery. It's very unkind. It's very unkind. And they knew. The government official who visited the scene is also from the area. He's a grassroots politician from the area. And there's no way he will come to tell the world that he was not aware. So they were aware and they kept quiet, only to declare the operator of the refinery wanted upon the death of hundreds of people. That shows how unkind government is. For everything can happen within the state, as long as it does not affect the legitimacy of the government doesn't care about it.
As long as it doesn't affect the legitimacy of the government,
Yes.
they care less. But Tochukwu, I am wondering, this happened last week, it made the headlines. This week, we're not going to see many headlines. The following week, we may not see any headline. And so all this will be cast into the dustbin of non-history, right?
Yeah.
There are two books in Nigeria that amaze me usually. One, we will bring the perpetrators, we will bring the criminals to book. You see that book I referred to? That book has nothing is inside, nothing has been written inside it, but everything has been referred to it. And then, secondly, the history book of incidents that happened in Nigeria. Now, that has happened. 110 people at least burnt to death. Mass burial conducted. That is the end of it. That incident has now been transferred to our history book and consigned there. Nobody makes reference to it anymore. The government, I can tell you, has not learned any lesson, will not learn any lesson, and will not take any action. That is not the only operational illegal refinery in Imo State. So other illegal refineries are still operating, known to the government. Now, you cannot tell any keen watcher of events in the society that there is a business point or an illegal refinery which holds at least 100 persons at the same time. Note that not all the persons who were gathered there died, because there were still other eyewitnesses. If you had read the reports, you would have heard eyewitness reports of even the young man that tried to climb a tree. The fire still caught up with him up there on the tree till he fell and got burnt. So there were at least one person, you understand, who survived. So if such a business, and look at the thing is, tankers go there, fetch fuel, move out. Vehicles go there with containers, all types of vehicles move in there, fetch fuel and go out. Government knew about these things. And if you trace it clearly, persons in government were getting direct benefits, financial benefit from the operation of that particular illegal refinery, and indeed all other illegal refineries in Imo State. But what will happen? Nothing will happen. It will continue like just nothing happened. That's our society. Because within the next 7 days, another big story will happen, and we will follow the trend and leave the stale news. Yeah, it has already become stale news. Unless the media continues to keep a particular issue on the front burner, like the Kaduna train incident, very soon something else will happen, and maybe 120 people will die somewhere in Kaduna, and we'll be like, oh, even the people in Kaduna train, they are still alive, theirs is better. Let's focus on the dead ones. And before you know it, elections will come around, primaries will happen. Primaries will begin to happen by Saturday of political parties. And by then, we won't have time. Nigeria won't have time to discuss these issues. Everybody will be focused on the primaries. And that is our country for us.
As we prepare for the political primaries, let us remember that the primaries that matter the most are those that have to do with the security and safety of lives of our people. We will take a short break, and when we come back, we shall go right into the discussion segment of today. Don't go away.